What's the matter with this thing? Come on. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Just go online. Well, this is fun. Come on. Ah, there. Hey, everybody. What's happening? How's everybody doing tonight? I was having a little trouble getting online there. For some reason, it didn't want to let me on. So, oh my gosh, you guys are starting with the big questions here already. All right, cool. Let's do shout outs. Of course, Amy Hogshead was our first comment tonight. Hi, Amy. And she had chicken tenders, applesauce, and cottage cheese. That's not quite as extravagant as some of the other nights you've had, but glad you got to have something good. This coronavirus thing is driving Amy crazy, and my emotions are getting worse here. So please pray for me. Yes, pray for everybody. Coronavirus is making lots of people insane, including my computer. And Matt Clements, my man. I like it. Put your seatbelts, put your seats in the upright position, buckle your seatbelts. Time to take off into Christianity. May the force be with you, Batman. I mean, I don't know if I can top that tonight with anything I had to say. So, hey, Daryl Parker, my man, what's happening? Hey, Linda Horn, how you doing? Martian Joe, tell you what, you guys are tearing up the YouTube thing. Hey, Janet Scott, are in the house. Buckle up is right. You got it. Hi, Teresa Bitters. Janet, better keep Scott in line for me, please. Thanks. Boy, Amy is really putting the smackdown on some people tonight. That's good. Dave and Amy Jessen are here. How you guys doing? Dave and Amy Jessen. I have something for you. I had this last night, but of course I couldn't find it quickly. Where are we at here? Dave and Amy Jessen, please tell me. Is this the song you were talking about? Can you hear it on here? I don't know if you guys can hear it. Dave and Amy Jessen, is this the song you're talking about? Because if so, I'm kind of ashamed that you wouldn't think that I would have had that. So, all right, good. Who else we got here? Becky and Craig are here. How you guys doing? DW, my man, is here. Tim and Candy are also in the house. Fantastic. Joyce Koenig is here, so the party may officially start. Hey, Matt Clements. Angie Meyer. Supper tonight, we had ham steak and sweet potatoes. Nice. Man, I haven't had a sweet potato in forever. That sounds really good. Hey, Cheryl, thank you for your call today, and sorry I didn't get back to you sooner. My phone blew up today. In fact, I probably should plug it in. It was all day I was on my phone. Whoa. All right. Wow. Lots of stuff here. Jan Moran says, so Tim, my question to my mother was, Mom, why if you pray for something, why do you continually pray for it? What's your thought? Well, my first thought is I better turn off my phone. So Tim, my question to my mother was, Mom, why if you pray for something, why do you continually pray for it? I'm not sure I understand the question. Why if you pray for something, why do you continually pray for it? Can you flesh that out for me, Jan? I will be happy to answer it, but I'm not sure I comprehend the question. So tell me a little more. Matt, gotcha. Nobody got me, Matt. Whatever. Cheryl says you are online. Oh, did you see my little? Yeah, my thing was being dumb. Sorry about that. Hi, Teresa. Hey, Crystal and Bill are here. Hi, Suze. Hey, Sherry. Sherry, the video that you and Jess shot is rendering right now, and I got all the way up here and realized I forgot to put the words to the song in. So I'm going to have to go back and restart that whole thing and do that. So to any of you who would like to be a part of children's ministry, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and I'll send a text out about this, there's going to be a premiere. There's a half-hour video made just for kids. They're going to play a game. where they're going to build a Bible verse. They're going to paint some rocks, and they're going to sing a song that hopefully by then we'll have words with it. And just a nice little thing that Jess, Sherry, and Jaden put together, or Jada. Oh, geez. I probably got the name wrong. I'm stupid. Anyways, yeah, so they're going to be there tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. We'll be premiering at 6 o'clock, so hopefully you all will be able to come out. Have your kids come out. It was a fun little video to edit, and be about a half an hour tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. So, hey, Christina. Hey, Doug, how you doing? All right, Daryl is here. Trina and Dennis are here. Let's see, Doug and Margie. Hi, Dave. Dave says, yes, that was the song. I knew that was the song. Very good. Mike and Tina logged on just in time to hear the theme from Batman. Well, you've seen everything important then. Daryl, Jim is doing very well. He's starting to do things, not as bad as it could have been. Yes, I'm glad to hear he's feeling better. Hey, Val Cisco. Hey, Anna Kay. And appreciate it, everybody. Good deal. Jan, please tell me more about your question. I would love to answer that question, but I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me. So help me out there. All right. Everybody remind me when we're done here tonight. Everybody make sure that I remember to go back down to the sanctuary and fix that video I screwed up and get the words put in it. Don't let me forget to do that, because if I get all the way home and have to come back, I'm going to be upset. So don't let me forget to do that. I don't know if any of you were looking. Our discussions the last couple of nights have sparked some interesting responses from people. I don't know if you looked at the video from last night, but we had a very interesting comment come in on the comments on that one. So I'm not exactly sure what that person, and it's not anybody that I know, was trying to get to, but that was a little different. So I think putting atheist in the title of these videos has garnered us some attention. So we'll see if anybody else comes on here and wants to challenge me like Absolute Truth tried to the other night. All right, very good. So we are going to start tonight halfway through chapter 1, and the good Lord willing, we're going to finish chapter 1 tonight. We're looking at 42 here tonight. You guys are rocking this out. I'm proud of you. We're starting on the section on page 38, and there's a little like subtitle that says "Knowing God Intimately." That's where we're going to start. And Marge Tangeman, your book is coming. I ordered one for you and for the Burke holders, and they're coming. Hopefully, we'll be here soon. I was kind of scoping them out. They're in the mail somewhere, so as long as the mail keeps moving, they'll get here soon. So, just want you to know, Marge, that's been ordered and it's en route, and hopefully, we'll have it soon. So, hi, Kevin. Good to see you, and hi, Deb. Hope you're having a nice conversation on the phone. Hey, Jess. Hey, a little late. Glad you're here. All right. Okay. So any follow-up from last night? Anybody? Any follow-up from what we were talking about last night? Anybody? If so, jump in the comments and leave that. Just because obviously we're doing. Thanks, Marge. We're doing the second half of chapter 1. Now, one of the things he talks about here when he's first getting started, and his first couple of paragraphs, is he basically makes a statement about God orchestrating things and making things go into motion, and how we live life. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, Marge, your book is going to Linda's house, so that's where it will arrive, and we'll have to make arrangements to get it to you. And hey, Miriam. And hi, Mike and Tina. Yes, if you are reading this book and not self-reflecting, you're doing it wrong, Mike and Tina. So very good. So, I mean, that's what he says there. I mean, in fact, to that end, if you look in paragraph number 2, the paragraph that starts with, it's like somehow my spirit is connected to him. I can hear what he's saying, starting in that paragraph. The very last sentence in that paragraph says, that's doing life with God. First question, jump in the comments and tell me, are you doing life with God? And don't just say yes or no. Tell me what's going on or what's happening in your life that is causing you to do life with God. That's what I want to know about. Because honestly, self-reflection is, I mean, the study is just me trying to entertain you for an hour if we're not doing some self-reflection. So I hope that you're taking the opportunity to do that. So, all right, Linda. Yeah, Linda's going to deliver that book when it gets there, Marge. So tell me, are you doing life with God and how? What does that mean to you to do life with God? What does it mean to do life with God? Is anybody here doing life with God? I just love the lag on this. Doing life with God. Anybody out there? Anybody doing life with God? Okay, it's about being still and waiting on His timing, because we don't often like to wait for God. We have this tendency to get way out in front. Anybody else doing anything to live life with God? I have to get you guys warmed up here tonight. I try daily. I consult Him when working frequently. I'm sure in your job, Cheryl, you consult Him very frequently. So Joe says, nope, easier being selfish. So we got one honest person here tonight, Joe. Appreciate that, buddy. Joe, I heard a rumor that you were in a Zoom meeting like 2 days ago, and you were wearing a Batman mask for somebody's benefit, and that somebody was too dense to notice. I didn't even know about it until somebody told me about it afterwards. Somehow I was in that entire Zoom meeting and didn't realize you were wearing a Batman mask. How in God's name I managed to pull that off, I have no idea. But I'm sufficiently embarrassed to say that I didn't notice that you were wearing a Batman mask, and I have no idea how I missed that. So, yeah, yep. Yeah, I somehow completely missed it. I don't know how. Okay, so Jess says letting him lead. That's good. Reading devotionals, good. Praying together as a couple, that's outstanding. Trying to build a relationship with Him. Yep, praying without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Very good, Candy. Talk with daily through the day. Love knowing Him right there with me. Teresa, good. Constant conversation, Becky. That's good. Some days are better than others. Look, that's life, Christina. Keep my eyes on the Word of God. The more I separate myself from the things of the world, the better. That's true on a lot of fronts, actually. Asking for God's direction on decisions and care. I'm a caregiver. I'm a caregiver following God and giving me strength. Okay, good. And Joe says, I don't know the color. You don't know the color of my eyes. True. Guilty as charged. Talking, praying constantly. Good. Matt says, shut up and listen. There's very few circumstances where that's not good advice. So good. It's about, just like anything else that you care about. You're going to invest time in it. You're going to put forth effort to it. Put them on your calendar, Linda. That's very good. All these things work together to help us carve out space for God. And just like anything in life, if you don't carve out space for it, meaning give it time, resources, and effort, just like anything else, that relationship will dry up and die. Today I was going around and watering. I got a couple of plants in my house, and I was watering them, thinking about, if I miss a day or two, it's probably not catastrophic, but you go 2 months without dealing with your plants, and then you don't have plants anymore. So I have a burn plant, I have an African violet, and I have a rubber plant that I just got. My sister just gave, or my Aunt Kate just gave it to me, and I've been, got to care for those things, because if you don't, they die. The relationship with God is identical to that. And the problem is, it's not, if you got a plant that's in a potted plant in your house, if that plant dies, you can't say, well, you stupid plant, why didn't you get some water? Because it's on you to go take care of that. And it's the same way with your relationship with God. If that's drying up, it's on you to make sure you're nurturing that, no matter how good or bad things are going. And I'll admit, look, you got me. There are some times when life can go really sideways and really get hard. And I mean, I think of the Jacobs family here tonight, who their daughter was in the car accident. Here, it was either yesterday or the day before, and she's in really, really bad shape. And the doctors are giving the family bad news. It just breaks my heart. And I'm hoping that the community of God can come around the Jacobs family and see them through this, because that's Shelby's in a bad place right now, and so we want to be in prayer for them because that situation is just horrendous. So, all right. Let's see. Angie says, keep focusing on him throughout the day, giving thanks. Yeah, focusing on him and giving thanks, I think, is a very good thing to do. Turning to God, being his strength, absolutely. The plant's going to have a really hard time finding water if you don't bring the water to the relationship. That's good. Praying while you're driving, that's good. Especially if praying keeps you from texting while you're driving, that's even better. And nurture your relationship with God all day. Very good. Okay, so you guys got the idea. She was life flighted. I don't know which hospital she went to. She was life flighted somewhere. I don't know which hospital she's in, Cheryl. But just a bad situation. So, all right, good. All right, well, let's skip on down here. Rather than carve out time, I draw to him and all I do. Yeah, and that's important. But I still think having designated time to put toward that is important. Miami Valley. That's apparently where she was. I heard she was life flighted. I did not know where. So, all right. So doing life with God is a very important thing. Okay. So one of the things that investing time in God and allowing that situation to grow and increase is he goes on in the next paragraph there to say, talking about David, because David, who wrote many of the Psalms we have in our Bible, one of which being Psalm 63, talks about relationship with God. And David says that his experience of knowing the personal God creates a deeper longing for even more intimate knowledge of God. How many of us could claim that? I mean, have you gotten to the point in your life where there's no such thing as too much God? I mean, there's some people out there who may take evangelism a tad on the aggressive side and overdo that quite a bit. But, I think most of us, is particularly in our private life. And by private life, I mean, your devotional life, the time, that you invest in being a part of what's going on in God, God and you. I don't know if there's such a thing as too much. There's a time when you gotta go out and live your life, and you gotta respond to the God's grace. We kind of talked about that a little bit last night, but it's a good feeling to say I can't get enough of this, and I think that's where David was, and David. Any of you who know anything about David led a very interesting life, and had a lot of experiences on all the range of whatever could happen to you. David had that happen. And he wrote this psalm to basically say, God is so precious to me that I just can't get enough. And that's a very important place to be. I hope that's why you guys are coming here in the evenings. I mean, not only just so you can watch my face talk to you, but I also hope that you're here because you desire to have a closer relationship with God. I hope that my introducing you to Joseph and introducing you to Job and introducing you to some of these other Daniel, introducing you to those biblical characters. I hope, introducing you to Ruth and Boaz on Sunday mornings. I hope that meeting those people and learning from their experience. And I don't want to look past any Sundays because I want to have a good service on Sunday, obviously. But I can't deny that I'm a tad on the excited side to get to the next weekend where we're going to start a sermon series on Moses. I'm really excited to look into Moses. His story is just fantastic. And I find myself like you guys can't get enough. I was, between about 114 projects today trying to write the sermon, and I got about 43% of the sermon written for Sunday. And as I'm kind of working along, and I find that and working through that, and I just, when I can have time to sit down and really work on it, I love it. I love being able to learn those stories so I can teach those stories. And I hope you guys feel the same with however God has called you. Thankfully, you're not called to be a preacher, but or maybe you are, I don't know. But all of you have an individual calling, whether it be nursing or caretaking or praying or whatever. I hope that you're participating in that in such a way that you're like, man, I can't get enough of this. I look forward to 8 o'clock every night to jump on here and be with you guys and have these conversations. Just lifts my spirits to be able to disciple you guys like this and have you guys disciple me. It's fantastic. So well, thank you, Linda. My goodness, that's very nice of you to say. And yeah, Teresa, that's the goal. that's why we're doing it. So, all right, very good. Well, let's flip over to the next section here. I'm now on page 40. And there's a heading there that says it's all in the name. That's where I'm at for those of you who are following along in your books. And very first paragraph, Craig writes, most Bible historians agree that David also wrote Psalm 90, verse 10, which says, in reference to God, those who know your name will trust in you. I'm sorry, did I say 90? It's Psalm 9:10, which says in reference to God, those who know your name will trust in you. Why can we say this about God? Those who know your name will trust in you. Why are we able to make a statement like that? What is it about knowing somebody that helps us trust? And while you're kind of formulating that, I have a funny story from today. One of the 27 phone calls I got was interesting and actually feeds right into this. My sister texted me earlier today and said, hey, Tim, can you help me out? My parents need to purchase a new handicap accessible van. And I said, yeah, what you need? She said, well, we found one on, I don't know if it's Craigslist or Facebook or someplace. We found one, but it's down by St. Mary's. And we're wondering, since you're obviously down there, can you go take a look at it? And I said, well, sure, I can. Obviously, since it's local, it's easier for me to go look at it and everything. And they said, I said, well, who has it? So I could figure out where it's at. And she goes, Robert Spees. I said, Dr. Spees? Turns out, I said, well, Amy, he goes to my church. He's my chiropractor. And Amy goes, of course he is. So it was just kind of funny. So I called Dr. Spees' dad, who has the van that we're looking at. And I called him up and understand, when you put your phone number out there on the internet, you're going to get, you don't always know who's going to call you. And I said, hey, I'm just calling about the van you've got. And he goes, sure. And I said, I'd like to come over and see it. And he goes, well, okay. And so we talked about a time, and we got a time set up for me to go do that. And I go, by the way, I don't know if anybody's told you this yet, but I'm the pastor of St. Mary's and your son goes to my church. Man, the whole tone of that conversation completely changed, because now he knew he never met me, but he now knows me based on what I'm hoping is nice things Dr. Spees said about me. I hope. And it's amazing how knowing somebody changes. The whole conversation changed. Because instead of now having a stranger come over to his house and know where his address is and know where he lives, now he at least knows of me, even though he's not met me. And that kind of familiarity can really help. And that's what we're talking about here, why it's so important to know God. When we know God, the whole tenor of the conversation changes. We're not praying and having some kind of weird one-sided conversation with a stranger. Now we realize, hey, we got some common ground here. And that's exactly how that conversation today went. He went from, well, I guess you could come over, to absolutely, I can't wait to meet you. I mean, the whole thing changed. It just was so funny. The air on the whole conversation just turned completely around. And so that was kind of cool to see when we realized we shared a connection. That was just, it was very neat. And I feel like that's what it is with God. People who don't know God or have a false perception of what God is, they're praying with apprehension, where people who know him are like, man, this is fantastic. But in order to get to that point, you have to have experiences with God. And people who don't know God, kind of like the opening chapter here, can't have those kind of conversations. Those conversations cannot happen because we don't know each other. So that personal knowledge, or the personal knowledge of somebody you trust, meaning obviously Dr. Spee's father has never met me, but he obviously knows his son, and I know Dr. Spees because he's the only reason I can walk upright, and I mean that sincerely. Suddenly we now have a connection that everybody feels better about this. So that's super cool. And that's what we need to get with God. And that's why those of us who feel good about our connection with God, even though, life isn't always peachy, but if we feel good about our connection with God, we need to be able to live in such a way that we can make other people feel comfortable with God. And we cannot do that. And we talked about this. I believe we talked about this during the introduction chapter 2 nights ago. We talked about it because about the person, remember, who had Craig there at Vacation Bible School and tried to scare the hell out of him, literally, try to save this heathen child, and how well that went. If we got people out there who are afraid of God like that, or trying to browbeat people into being in a relationship with God, that does not work. We can make people afraid of God. I can make people afraid of me. It's not that hard, to be honest with you, but that doesn't convert people. That doesn't save people. That doesn't change lives and make good things happen. It might adjust behavior, and maybe we like that, but it doesn't save anybody. And that's when God would much better have the opportunity to affect somebody's life in a positive way. So, yeah, personal knowledge is different from hearsay knowledge. Yeah, it's a relationship, certainly. And Val says to know, to trust, to share, to know, to trust, to share, to know, say. That's a lot of twos. It's a lot of prepositional phrases you got there, Val. But I think I agree with you. Sharing this time brings amazing focus. Thank you, Miriam. And that's what it's for. Matt says you can be honest with somebody you can trust. Yes. Which is a fleetingly rare thing to have, Matt. And I know you know that as well as anybody, about being able to have some honesty and some integrity in your relationships. That's a very valuable thing. And all right, very good. So good. All right, he goes on to give an example that I'm going to just kind of pass over quickly because I think I illustrated it with that story about the van. He talks about how people know him and how he knows whether or not people know him, and it's by the name that they use. I haven't done this here with Diane, but I know in a previous church I served, I had a secretary who would answer the phone. Diane here is pretty good about screening out telemarketers. In fact, I don't think one's ever gotten through her. But I've had other secretaries that weren't quite as aggressive with the telemarketers. So I gave one of my secretaries, I had a very simple way to tell whether or not a person is a telemarketer. First of all, if they call and ask for Reverend Benjamin, do not put them through, ever. I don't care who they are. Reverend Benjamin is never in. Because look, there's 45 of you in here right now. There's not one of you in this chat room who knows me at all who would call up and say, hey, is Reverend Benjamin there? Unless you were trying to be facetious about something, and then I'm going to kick your rear end. Y'all know better than that. Nobody's going to call and ask for him because who's that guy? Second rule was, Pastor Tim is in if you know who the person is. Now, I don't particularly care about the title. I know that title means something to some of you. It means absolutely nothing to me. So if that makes you feel better to call me that, then, knock yourself out. So I said, if you don't know who the person is and they ask for Pastor Tim, nope, I'm not here. That guy's not in. But if you know them and they call and ask for a Pastor Tim and you know who it is, then chances are it's okay. Go ahead and put that one through. But if somebody calls and asks for Tim, that guy's almost always here, amazingly. And why? Because I know who knows me based on the name that you use. He goes on to talk about how his children call him by a certain name and his wife calls him by a certain name and certain things like that. You have that too. Certain things that people call you. Naming is actually far more important than we Americans think. In other cultures, naming is quite a big deal, and where that name comes from. And you all know that. I mean, people have titles and names for you. Some of them maybe you don't want to repeat in a church chat room, but those names tell a lot about what people think about you. And that's a very important thing not to lose sight of, because to call somebody by the wrong name can get you in trouble. And I don't mean calling them a bad name. I mean, nobody walks up to the CEO of a big company and says, "Hey, George, what's happening?" I mean, nobody does that. Now, you may walk in my office and say, "Hey, Tim, what's happening?" And that'd be perfectly acceptable, because that's the kind of relationship I have with people. But if somebody I don't know wants to come in and walk off the street and wants to come in and barge in here and try to shoehorn me or try to turn something over on me, then I don't go for that. And and that's that naming is very, very important. Not only are the names that people call you very important, but the names that you call other people are very important. There are people in my life. I'll take my parents, for example. I call them mom and dad. I don't call anybody else that. I mean, not unless I have some kind of reason, which I wouldn't know what that would even be, And so those titles, they mean something. And man, I'm going to smack you upside the head. That's what's about to happen there. So, okay, so your daughter Brianna, close people call her Breezy. Yeah, and look, I wouldn't go up and call her that, unless somehow you gave me permission to, because I wouldn't act that familiar with somebody unless I was that familiar with somebody. And oh my gosh, we got a bunch of smart alecks in here now. Hi, thank you, Becky. I feel very flattered about that. Here, I thought we were friends all this time. So, all right, but you guys get the idea. So, names we call other people. Now, let's take that to the next step. And since you're a runner, do we call you Reverend Run? No. The only time I ever use the title is Candy, if that's the way you want to do it, that's fine. But the only time I ever use the title, I only ever become Reverend Benjamin when I want something. If I ever call you up and say, "Hey, this is Reverend Tim," or "This is Pastor Tim," you better watch out, because I'm about to lay something on you that I want, and you better just watch out. So that's some free advice to the 47 of you who are logged in here right now. And if I'm calling a company and I have a question and I'm trying to get through customer service, you'd be amazed how fast Reverend Benjamin gets you through all that garbage. So, and you can impersonate me. I give you all permission to do that. So, all right. So, anyways, now let me get to my point that I've been trying to get to for 10 minutes now. The name that you call God also matters. Jesus in the Lord's Prayer said, "Our Father who art in heaven," and that's a very intimate word. And there's a lot of times in the Old Testament where people will refer to God by different names. It's the same God, but they refer to him by different names, and it's all how they know him. And what name do you associate with God? Is it capital God? Is it Jesus? Is it Redeemer? Is it Creator? I mean, the title that you give to God, the name that you give to God, that's going to be very significant. And Moses said, "What's your name?" God said, "I am that I am." I don't even know what that means, but that's what God's name is. And so you want to keep that in mind. Names are very important, especially when we refer to God, because how familiar you are means something. So if you're going, some kind of elaborate title with God that you use every time you pray, and you're going to be all formal and read prayers out of books, okay. I mean, if that's meaningful to you, great, but that's not a high level of familiarity. If you're going to sit down and have a conversation with God, like many of you alluded to earlier, you might want to have a more familiar name. And Matt, I'm a huge fan of Redeemer myself, and And Becky is throwing her husband under the bus. I find no surprise whatsoever that it was Craig that made that comment. Why you would allow him to touch the keyboard while this is happening? I don't know why you would make a decision like that, Becky. But that's on you. So, but very good. And Father, my Lord. So you see, these names are significant. Names are very significant into how you want to relate to the person you're speaking to. And all right, we get a lot of votes for Father here. Yeah, I personally like that one too. And but that denotes or illustrates your feeling about God, your relationship with God, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing to when you're praying, pay attention to what titles you use for God. And it's an interesting thing to think about. So my next question, a number of you have already gotten to. He says, I'm on page 41. He says, what do you call God? And a number of you have answered this question. He gives a few examples, honestly, none of which I would recommend. The big guy in the sky, the man upstairs, dear 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus. If those are any titles you use, then you don't know him. Titles may be clever or funny, but they certainly aren't intimate. And that's something to think about. How close we feel to God and what that's going to mean and how we relate to God and how that relationship progresses. It's going to be a very important thing to see. So, all right. Okay, one of the very last sentence. I'm skipping over to page 42. There's a little subheading there that says the best is ahead. The paragraph directly before that subheading says, what do you call God? Your answer may be a clue as to how well you know him or don't know him. So think about this. I kind of formulated this question while I was prepping this for tonight. And so I'll throw this out there. When you refer to God, do you refer to God by title, reputation, relationship, or description? I want you to think about that. The word that you use, Heavenly Father, a number of you have said that one. That's an extremely appropriate one to choose. But is that a title, a reputation, a relationship, or a description? Now, I know that I some of that's redundant, but I want you to think about that because, again, whether that's a title, reputation, relationship, or description, that matters. Is Heavenly Father a title? Okay, but that doesn't seem very close. Is that a reputation? No, that could work. Is it a relationship? Obviously, Father is a relationship. Is it a description? So if you call God Redeemer, which one is that? Is that a title, a reputation, a relationship, or a description? That is a tough question. That's what you guys all signed on for, wasn't it, Tina? But that's it's supposed to be. And does that matter? Again, I'm not saying that, oh my gosh, you're using a title for God. Oh, shame on you. That's not at all what this is about. I just want you to think about how that works. Yes, Heavenly Father is probably a relationship, but think about many of the other names. Creator. Is Creator a title, a reputation, a relationship, or description? I'm not saying any one of the four of these are wrong. I'm not saying any of them are even better than the others, depending on how you want to look at them. Creator, that may be a reputation. Redeemer, that might be a description. And that's right, Scott. And I'm not saying that one of these are any better or worse than any of the others. I'm not saying that doing it one way is wrong. I'm just thinking, to you, does God have a title, a reputation, a relationship, or a description? Or I should say, and a description. He honestly should have all four. Because if I asked you about your spouse or your kids, you could tell me these four things. Do you know your spouse by title, reputation, relationship, or description? You can say that about people your best friend, coworkers. You know this. And so let me be abundantly clear. I'm not saying any of these are bad. I'm just asking you how these words function to you. And I want you to make sure that you have a name for God that fulfills these. Not a single name that does all four, but different names for God. Just like people have different names they call me. You know, you got Reverend Benjamin, Pastor Tim, you got Tim. I got a couple people who call me son. You know, I just then I've got Walmart calls and Kroger calls me customer. Amazon calls me a member. Wayne Street calls me a leader. The town council calls me a pain. I mean, it just there's a lot of different things out there that that denote who we are. So I'm not saying I'm not saying any of them are bad. I'm not asking you to pick. I don't want you to pick one because I want you to have all four. I want you to see God in a way that through his title, through his reputation, through his relationship, and through his description. I want you to see him all four of those ways because you see everybody in all four of those ways. And I think that, and look, a perfect example is the van story I told you a few minutes ago. Now Dr. Spee's dad, he knows me by title, he knows me by reputation, he knows me by relationship, and he knows me by description. Why? Simply because I could say, I'm your son's pastor. Just by that, the guy now knows some things from me, and he gets a great deal of comfort about me coming to his home, where his wife is, all of his possessions are. I'm not a stranger anymore because he has something to fill all four of those things with. He has a title for me, he has a reputation for me, relationship and description, all for me, based on one detail. But he was able to supply all those things. Now, there's a problem if, say, you don't know or don't allow God to fulfill one of these. Say you give God a title, you give God a reputation, and you give him a description, but there's no relationship component to that. That becomes very, God may be avenger. His reputation may be a punisher. His description may be wrathful. And I'm not so sure I want to know him in a relationship way if that's the other three things. So, I guess the other way you can look at this is if one of these four categories is negative. What if your description of God is negative? God always craps on me and makes sure everything goes wrong for me. Well, that's going to really taint the other three categories. Your title for him may be jerk. His reputation may be not so hot. Relationship may be I keep him at arm's length or farther if the description is bad. Maybe his title is, the great destroyer. All he ever does is take from me things that I like. And he denies me everything that he wants. So his reputation is mean. It's going to be hard to have any positive at all if one of these categories is off or incorrect or skewed or whatever you want to say. So just a way of thinking about relating to God that in your life, and I know y'all are going to say yes, so don't bother answering, but I want you to really think about if yes is the correct answer. Does God have a positive title? Many of you picked Heavenly Father. Some of you in here, that may not be a positive title. Well, then I say, fine, scrap it and get another one. It's perfectly fine. By reputation, many of us say his reputation is a savior. I say it's perfectly good. Perfectly good reputation for God. However, if you've been through a time in life that you don't want to really trust is an issue, to say savior may not mean much. Maybe you need the more caring, the more nurturing, loving reputation of God. That's okay. Your relationship with God, if relationships are difficult for you for any reason, any relationship with anybody is difficult. Therefore, that's going to make God hard to think about a relationship because all the rest of them are difficult. Description of God, as somebody taught you that God is, like these people who took Craig behind the garage we read about in the introduction. If that's the kind of description you have of God, again, that's going to taint the other three. So I'm simply asking you to evaluate in your life, can you sincerely say you have a positive attribute to place in each of these four categories? title, reputation, relationship, and description. We're relating to God. And if you don't, thankfully, we got a couple of weeks with this book. We're going to be able to flesh that out. And I hope you'll take time to do that. So if you're struggling with God on one of these 4 categories between title, reputation, relationship, or description, I'd like for you to really take some time while we're going through these and see if we can identify where that is. Maybe you need to focus more on one category because it's more positive there. But it seems that God has 2 different personalities from Old Testament to New Testament. That's a very common misconception, Candy. I think what we see is God trying to do the best he can in both testaments. He's trying to live in relationship with people. He's trying to live in relationship. That's what he wants to do. In the Old Testament, he's trying to get people to lift themselves up, and that didn't work. In the New Testament, he's lifting us up for ourselves because we were unable to hold it up. We saw the destructive consequences of God trying to allow us to do it ourselves, thus proving that the age-old saying that if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's what grace is all about. The Old Testament is what relating to God looks like without grace. That's the difference. It's God's intent is the same. Just his method of trying to do it is very different. Very, very different. And thank God we live in the time known as AD rather than BC. So, all right, very good. How are we doing on time? Oh, I got a lot of time. Okay. So, thank you, Candy. All right. Okay, so when we're talking about knowing God in these 4 categories, Matt, I'm sorry with the lag. I'm not sure what you're saying. Not always about, but sometimes my opinion in certain situations is different than his. Yes, and you got to ask yourself, whose error is that? Tell me what the not always is, though, Matt. I'm not sure what the not always is in response to because of I'm ahead of you guys. What you're seeing. So, all right, I'm skipping ahead to page 43. And I'm going to the paragraph that starts. Sorry, I'm reading my own note here. I'm starting with a paragraph that says, "If you don't know him, you can." I'm starting in that paragraph. So let's read a little bit of this. He says, "If you don't know him, you can. If you used to be close, you can be close again. Getting to know God is not difficult, and it isn't about a bunch of rules." Can I get an amen from the congregation? It is not about a bunch of rules. We try. I mean, back to Candy's question. We tried that approach. It's called the Old Testament. It didn't work. We tried. God tried. We tried. Didn't work. So now we use grace, and grace and rules don't always relate together. That's not to say do whatever you want. It is to say that grace is the greatest thing that has ever been invented ever. Grace is even better than anything. And whatever you want to put up against it, as far as being the greatest thing in the universe, you can have in fact, you can have the whole rest of the universe combined and give me grace, and I'm still going to win because nothing beats that. Absolutely nothing beats it. So grace is where it's at. So with that knowledge and with that, that title, reputation, what were those 4 categories I had? Title, reputation, relationship, or description. With those 4 things, if you're failing on one of those, I'm sorry, that was the wrong way to say that. If one of those is not what it should be, that's what I meant to say. If one of those is not what it should be, do you believe that we can get it where it needs to be? Now, your answer better be yes. But don't just say yes because I want you to say yes. If God has a reputation to you that is not positive, can we work on that? Can that be adjusted? The answer is yes, unless the answer is no. And if you say it's no and you refuse to do it, then that's probably the only way that it's not going to change. So I want you to entertain the possibility that God may be able to change a heart. I mean, I'm going out on a limb here, right? But I want you to enter into this study with that kind of mindset. That if there's something deficient, or we have one of these components of God that's less out of whack somehow, that we will allow the possibility that could be changed. You at least got to give me the possibility. Okay? Because if you go to the next paragraph right after the one I'm in, I'm still on page 43. The very first sentence says, as you get to know him better, you will change. Even if all four of those categories are absolutely perfect right now, how they are, and you're super on fire for God and things, if something happens that you suddenly know God better, things change for the better. Even if they're already the best they've ever been. Sometimes I think we think that a relationship with God is something you arrive at. No, a relationship with God is something you aim toward. You're not going to arrive, but it keeps getting better the closer you get. And that's great. I mean, how many times in life have you worked for something and you wanted something real bad, and then you got it, and then you're like, oh, what do I do now? Or what's the next thing? Relationship with God's not like that. You're never going to arrive there. Therefore, it's a journey that continues every day until the pastor stands up at your funeral and gets to celebrate how great it really is. And the person who knows on the day of your funeral, the person that's going to know how awesome grace is more than anybody else is you. And that's something you can be very thankful for. So as you get to know him better, things change. And all right. Parker Miley dropping the big word. Sanctification is exactly what we are talking about. Prevenient grace is the grace that works in our lives before we're aware of it. Justifying grace is the moment we become aware of it. And sanctifying grace is the continuing work of God in our lives as we are noticing it. And that's what helps us to grow. It makes us, as Candy says there, a work in progress. Very good, Parker. You spelled that word right, my man. I am way impressed. So, yes, we have to be willing to change in order to grow with God, which we all know how much we like change. It's every United Methodist's favorite thing on earth. Tina and Mark say, seen that happen firsthand. He fills voids that you don't even realize you have. Sounds like you've been on an Emmaus walk recently there, Tina. And very good. Yes, you say religion, Marcia. I would say faith. Faith is not a sprint. It's a marathon. That's true. But it's a marathon to a wonderful place. And faith and the ongoing work of sanctification, of the presence of the Holy Spirit in your life, that it literally cannot get better than that. So it's something we all want to embrace and love and enjoy and bask in for all it's worth. All right, friends. We're approaching the grand finale of the night here. Let's skip down to the very last two sentences of this chapter on page 43. Let me read these two sentences to you. And I believe that we have already alluded to this a couple of times, but let's go ahead and say it outright. Verse 43, the last two sentences of the chapter. Get to know God. When you do, you will never be the same. The note that I put on these two sentences is, are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? He says, get to know God. When you do, you will never be the same. Are you okay with that? It's kind of like signing the waiver. Sign the waiver. Are you okay if God changes you? I'm just curious. If there was such a waiver I could hand you and said, will you sign this? Say it's okay if God changes you? Would you sign on the dotted line saying that's all right with you? Because if you have an honest question about God's title, reputation, relationship, or description, If you have a question mark in any of these categories or something questionable in there, then you may say, oh, yeah, I would sign. But would you? If there's a deficiency in one of these 4 areas, would you be willing to sign it? And I would say you'd be less enthusiastic about it. If there was something around God's title, reputation, relationship, or description that you had as a question mark, your signing it might not be quite as enthusiastic. My hope is that all of you would sign it. And my double hope is that, a month from now or whatever it's going to be when we finish this book, I hope as excited you are on May the 20th to sign that God can change you. I hope at the end of the study of this book, you will be more excited about it. That is my goal. So we'll see how that works. So, all right, friends, we have stumbled to the end of chapter 1, and Jess is in there. Jess, I know you're embracing this all the way. We have come to the end of chapter 1. Chapter 1, which... Oh, hold on here a second. Chapter 1, we are addressing when you believe in God but don't really know him. And I think we've had a pretty good discussion on that. So tomorrow we're going to start the first of 2 days where we're going to be talking about when you believe in God but are ashamed of your past. I'm sure that doesn't apply to any of the 44 of you in here logged in right now, but maybe you know somebody who may have something in their past to be ashamed of, and I want you to know that this is entirely facetious, what I'm saying here. But, what do we do with that? Man, I got stuff in my past I'm not terribly happy about, and I'm sure all of you do too. And so how can we allow God to have access to some of that stuff? And that may be a little frightening for some of you to think about. So, yes, we continue to change to strengthen our faith and relationship. Dangerous prayers to pray. They are dangerous prayers. We learned all about that. Jess says it's painful to grow, but you're not being honest or truly doing it if it doesn't hurt. Jess sounds like somebody who works out. Yeah, you go to the gym, you're going to learn all about that hurting to grow stuff. Oh, Val, you're so amazingly welcome. Oh, Amy always reminds me, please, everybody, give me a thumbs up here tonight. That keeps us in good relationship with the YouTube algorithm. So if you click a couple likes on there, I'd appreciate that. Let go and let God. And Marge agrees with Jess, and I think I do too. So, all right, cool. So don't leave us hanging. Did they buy the van? The truth is, I'm going tomorrow night to go see it. So I've not been there to look at it yet. I just talked to Dr. Spees and his dad a couple of hours ago to set up an appointment, and I'm going to go see it tomorrow. So I may have word on that tomorrow night. We'll have to see. Oh, Sherry, did you just say something I really wanted to hear? Are you sure I don't need to add lyrics to that video? If you tell me not to add lyrics, I can go upload it right now, and that'd really make me happy. Yes. Matt is telling somebody named Reverend to remember to go down and do the video. I'm not sure who you're referring to there, Clements. So, all right. Val says, do the 12 steps in CR. It works. Yes, ma'am, it does. And any of you who are having problem with hurts, hangups, and habits, you want to go to CR. CR is starting to pick back up. And we will be happy to get you in touch with Cool Hand Luke, who we haven't seen for a while. We'll get Cool Hand Luke in here, and that's a good dude right there. Kevin says, it is frightening, but my faith will help me through it. That's just Kevin being honest, and we always appreciate that. And Tina and Mike are for some reason encouraging Matt, and I'm not sure why they would choose to do that. Sherry tells me I better ask the boss, Jess. Jess, do we need lyrics for that song in there? If you tell me yes, I'll go down and do it because I forgot to. But Jess, tell me in the chat or text me or something. Tell me if how important lyrics are, because the video is ready to go if we don't need lyrics. So All right, Joe. Yes, if you do something with your hands, you may remember to upload some wordage, and that's probably true. Nope, we're good. Look good. All right, cool. That means if any of you would like to set a reminder to watch the children's video tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, that video is going to pop up on YouTube uploading in about 10 minutes. So if you just go over to our channel and hang out for about 10 minutes, that video is going to pop up. You can click set a reminder, and your phone or computer, whatever you're using, will pop up and say, hey, why don't you come over and look at this tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So if you give me about 10 minutes, it should be done rendering. And I watched some of the video. It actually is quite funny. And there's a part where Jersey does some dancing. And I'm not going to lie. I did a little bit with the fast motion, slow motion in her dance, and it made it as great as it was. It made it a whole lot better. And I don't know what better hook I can give you than that. So reminder, there will be no words with the video. Thank you, Joe. And Kevin says you can write down lyrics, just don't ask me to sing them. Yeah, actually, Jess, I think, is going to do Ave Maria here some week. And I don't know that we're going to need words for that. We might need some Kleenexes because of the laughter, but yeah, so cool. All right. Hey, we're having a good time here, right? Is anybody having fun with these? Is anybody having a good time? Somebody tell me you're having fun, because I work hard on these videos. And I want to know you guys are getting something out of them. Because I sure enjoy having this time talking about relationships with God. I really enjoy this. So very cool. So, all right, Marge, I'm looking forward to you getting your book. Yeah, I think 47 was as high as we got up to, which is pretty good. And you're welcome. All glory to God. I just I'm not done yet, Joe. Give me a second. So, yeah. Yep. I'm glad to honor God with this time that we spend together. So, all right, everybody. We have reached that time of the evening. You guys honor me with your presence. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. Appreciate the fact that we get to talk through some of this stuff, and certainly enjoyed my time with you. I love you all very much. Hope you all have a good night's sleep tonight. Have a great evening. It's kind of a little cooler outside. Should be a good night for some snoozing. And I hope you guys all take care. And as I'm getting ready to head down to put that video up online, so hang around for just a few minutes. It's going to pop up. You can get in there and do that. And actually, if you thing I'm going to tell you to do and come back, that video a reminder thing may be there. So y'all know what you need to go do now. Go wash your hands.